The system is designed with the intent of helping swimming to thrive as a youth sport. The inspiration behind this was watching athletes in soccer, hockey, and basketball at a young age thrive because they could see proper technique at a high level, whereas swimmers often did not watch the Olympic swimmers or didn't have the same exposure as they only compete once every 4 years. Whereas young athletes who competed in the other sports got to see their heroes compete on a nightly basis. From this, we realized that swimmers would benefit greatly if they had the proper demonstrations on the proper techniques available at their disposal. This also helps coaches because as they watch the correct demonstrations, they can show this to the kids and point out the finer points of the catch, the power phase, and the recovery phase. Overall, the design is meant to be simple and easy to use. By design, it is minimal, meaning that we don't need a lot of navigation. You can easily get to each part of the app. By keeping the navigation to a minimum, we allow the coaches to quickly and easily navigate our system. This is very important considering that our main use of the system will come on pool deck during their practices, and we don't want to take away from their time with their swimmers. This system could also be used in an office setting with the coaches all together. It could be used so the coaches could give it to the swimmers to practice on. The coaches could take the quizzes themselves, take it with the swimmers. Swimmers could take it home, do the quizzes themselves. We also have the demonstrations tab again that younger coaches can view and try to broaden their own understanding of the different techniques, as well as show this to the swimmers with themselves and talk through the different portions of the demonstrations and show them exactly what they're talking about, as well as allow some of the more mature swimmers to read through the technical glossary and understand some of the physics behind why the techniques are the way they are, as well as allowing them to go through the drills, maybe the younger kids as well, and find ones they enjoy, and so the coaches can incorporate those into their practices. The main tasks that our system addresses were the quizzes, which, like we had said earlier, we wanted to address that the coaches could use them and build on their own knowledge, particularly younger coaches that don't have as much experience. It could be used for head coaches to train new coaches, young coaches, or even coaches that don't have any experience in swimming, as well as allowing the coaches to have a tool that they could put in the hands of the swimmers, so that the swimmers on their own could take the initiative, fire through the quizzes, and understand the different techniques and theories that the coaches are trying to implement. We also have the demonstrations tab, which allows the coaches to show the swimmers the high-level techniques that they don't often get to see because the Olympics are only competed in every 4 years, and unlike hockey and soccer, they don't get to see good, high-quality swimming as often as younger athletes in different sports. So this gives a comprehensive library for the coaches to dip into instead of having to try and scour through the internet and try to find videos that, quite frankly, generally aren't of the greatest quality. We also have our technical glossary, which allows for the coaches to read through our comprehensive set of terms, read the definitions on them, and hopefully incorporate them into their coaching, or even just understand them when they are talking to other coaches. Within the technical glossary, we also have our drills tab. The drills tab is there for the coaches so that they can look through and see drills that they may not have used before, maybe read different variations on them, as well as open it up to the swimmers so that they can find cool, fun drills that they enjoy trying, and the coaches can build upon that into a teaching moment. Now we're just going to do a walkthrough of the program to discuss its design and its functionalities. So our first page is the splash page, or our landing page. The sole intent of this is just to draw the user in, provide a nice aesthetic, as well as the navigation bar at the top so that they can get to the more useful pages. From there, they will not be coming back because we want it to be a quick, fast navigation. So the top will always remain in place, and then everything else will change from there. The first menu we're going to look at is in the top left here, the quiz. the strokes are presented in order: butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle. So we click butterfly. There's just the one for this one, the one question. So they read at the top how many arms should touch during the turn. We know it's not one hand because then they get DQ'd. 2 is correct, but it has to be simultaneous, right? So in both cases, we can see it flashes red when it's clicked. 2, the correct answer, and simultaneous. Right, turns green. This is just intuitive for the coaches when they're running through, and it doesn't really need to be explained that they get it. So for butterfly, it was just the one question. For backstroke or recovery, we talk about the recovery phase. They don't need to answer if they don't want to. So if they're stumped, they can consult the technical glossary or just guess and learn the right answer and then explore on their own and find out why. Right. So then we have the roll, how many degrees should it roll side to side, how many strokes are allowed before the front. This is super important because at the low level, a lot of swimmers either do 0 or they'll do 2. Both are incorrect. 0 has no power into the wall and 2 is just a disqualification. They get 1 on their front and they have to use that full stroke. They can't use it and then wait and kind of drift into the wall, which is very, very common. Breaststroke, left intentionally blank so that we can see what happens if the question set isn't found, if the file's not there. Freestyle is our most comprehensive, so left and right are both correct, but only in certain circumstances. So that's why we have the hand on the bottom of the streamline. Right, should both goggles be out of the water? No. And continuing through, all of these questions tend to go after weaknesses at the junior level, smaller kids that generally wouldn't know, or the younger coaches that they wouldn't initially think to correct this on the smaller children. Now we're going to take a look at the demonstrations in the top middle here. So they click on it and pulls up our what would be videos, but they're just stub methods for the moment. So we have the column of pull, column of kick, and column of swim, and then it's the row fly, row back, row breast, and row free. So these are presented in IM order, and then through this the coaches can quickly pick out whether they want to isolate just the pull. They can isolate at a glance just the kick or just the swim, or do they want to do it just off the stroke and just work on maybe fly? So show them the pull, show them the kick, and then the whole thing put together, or back and free. The images themselves also help the coaches because they group them by association. In a full functionality of this program, we'd have this lead to somewhere. So like we can see, if you click on the buttons, nothing happens. But ideally what we would have is you click on the button, the whole menu would switch to the video for fly pull. The coach could watch through, and then we'd have the video loop over itself, showing full speed, half speed, and then breaking down and maybe having some annotation so that the coaches can see some of the finer points and point them out to the kids if they didn't know it themselves. It is recommended, though, that when the coaches are viewing these with their kids, if they have the capability, that they would be doing this on their own, taping underwater, but that requires them to have underwater cameras, and not many clubs are so fortunate. We're going to move on to the technical glossary on the top right. So click on that. Our technical glossary is made up of both our technical terms and our drill suggestions. So technical terms on the left here and drills on the right. They're separated by our viewing pane in the middle here to separate them as two separate ideas, even though that the interface would be completely the same, or could be anyway, if they were to be implemented separately. So we have the technical terms listed down here, and our 4 major strokes put in the order at which the kids tend to learn them. Usually they learn freestyle, back row, breaststroke, butterfly. We get into some of the more basic stuff up until catch and drag, streamlines, and then pace clock, and we go into plantar and dorsiflexion. So we're going to click on that, and then it pops up with a description of exactly what plantar flexion and dorsiflexion are, which are really important to know when your children are kicking. You don't need to explain to them as plantar and dorsiflexion because they will not understand. But when going through drills, a lot of drills will distinguish these by, is it working on their plantar flexion or is it working on their dorsiflexion? Now if we click to the drills, like Tarzan drill for example, when it goes in, it just switches all information, so it's always in the middle here, nice and easy for the coaches to read and understand. And we have a nice selection of drills on the side here that could help them in a variety of circumstances. Right, this is just a small sample of some the drills that coaches could be using, some high quality drills and technical terms. The implementation of the program was developed in Java, and then the library I used was the Swing library. So we have JButtons for each of the categories here and throughout the rest of the app. So for example, demonstrations and technical glossaries. We have JMenu items up at the top here with a drop-down menu. Each of these are all three of these are scrollable panes. So if, for example, our description went on too long, they'd be able to scroll through it instead of having it cut off. Same with the technical terms. If we had packed in enough of those, that you could scroll up and down. Same with the drill suggestions. We'll backtrack to the demonstrations, and these are all also JButtons, but with images taken from the internet, images that are also tagged for use through the Creative Commons license. And then each of our quizzes is just JButtons with coloring depending on your answer. So within the file we had the question, the four answers, yes, and then the correct one. And if it's not the correct one, then it turns red. If it is, it turns green. You'd also notice throughout the whole walkthrough of the system that we haven't had to go back to the landing page. The entire time we've just been able to jump exactly where we need to, which facilitates coaches who are using this in the middle of their practice and don't have a lot of time to wait for it to load. There's also very little lag as they switch between the different functionalities or bring up certain technical terms or the drills, or there's no latency when they have to watch one of the videos.